Quite a few people were asking me about how to create modular patches like percussion, texture, or even some bass patches inside Native Instruments Reaktor blocks, right? This requested video I will break down 3 patches so you can follow along and hopefully can learn something out of it for your very own productions to get a very similar result, right? Hey friends, Silvano here from roughandstudio.com. So let's quickly talk about creativity here before we actually start with the patching, right? To paint the picture for you before we start with the actual patches, right? So I just recently started with modular patching and blocks specifically, and for the first few patches I was really just doing random shit, right? Now I strongly believe that creativity in the end is happening all randomly, right? Which is, in my opinion, a good thing, right? I can't really control the outcome, but what we can control is to gain basic knowledge and create the chances that those happy accidents happen more often, right? Now, as a little example, I like to think about this creativity thing like the following way, right? So we have a gumball machine, you know, those chewing gums, those round things, containing 3 different colors, white, green, and red ones, right? So you daily put in 1 simple coin for several days and you get only white or red gumballs, right? So the white stands for I like it, kind of, aka neutral. The red ones are it's cheesy, aka not what I expected or bad. And the green ones are the actual good ideas, right? Damn, I love that shit. It sounds great, whatever, right? So on some days you get only white and red gumballs, which is really frustrating, to be honest. But you see in that fucking gumball machine there are also green ones, right? So you put in and show up every day, put in those coins again and again for 4 or 5 days, you get some green gumballs, right? So the key part is to show up and put in the coin to get the chances of receiving those green gumballs, right? AKA doing some creative work on a daily basis. And trust me, sooner or later there will come out some green gumballs, but there are also coming out a lot of white and red gumballs, of course, right? Same goes with patching. So I was patching a lot of shit together, to be honest, right? And here in this video you only see the good ones. So I'm not just sitting down and patch all day long good stuff, just to paint a picture for you here a little bit. So let's finally start with some simple thought processes about the different modules that we have inside our patches, right? So yeah, I hope this stupid example resonates a little bit with you. Yeah, now let's talk about the knowledge side of things. In order of modules, I like to think about them in different tasks, right? And I took, of course, the knowledge from or inspiration from Patch and Tweak, great book if you want to start with modular. Damn, I don't get a dime when I recommend that shit. Anyway, we have different modules. We have audio sources, we have audio modifiers, we have CV sources, and we have CV modifiers. I came up with a little bit of a different name, like for audio sources I like to use audio generation. For modifiers I like to use audio modulation, and the same goes for CV generation and CV modulation, right? But that's just my personal thought. I don't know, it resonates better for me. Whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? But the key thing to know is for parts, for modules, for example, audio generation or audio sources are, for example, things that can make sound, right? Or put out some sound. Let's say oscillators, sample players, noise generators, a microphone input could also be, and everything is laid out here very beautifully, right? Then we have the audio modifiers. I like to call them audio modulation. Those could be something that alters the sound in some way. For example, maybe a filter, a resonators, amplifier effects, delays, EQ, whatever it is, right? And then on the other side we have the CV generation. Those could be keyboard, controller, sequencer, LFOs, clock, envelope generators, everything that generates control voltage or gate or trigger signal, right? And then we have the CV modifiers. I like to call them CV modulation. It basically alters just the control voltage. Those are, for example, quantizer, clock dividers, mixers, sample and hold stuff, and so on, right? So this really made it more easier for me to understand the whole patching world a little bit. Just think of 4 different categories of modules, right? So again, audio generation, I like to call them audio generation, audio modulation, CV generation, and CV modulation. So we have basically for audio, and we have something that can modulate it, right? So we have something that generates it, or we have something that modifies or modulates it, right? I just wanted to mention this, and I hope you can also resonate with this simple thought process. Now let's go to some patches. Great book, by the way. Yeah, it's beautiful to read and very inspiring. Okay, so let's have a listen to the patch that I wanted to show you for this video. First, I actually decided to make several patches or show you different patches in this video, but I guess I will break it really in depth down. So I think I will show you just this one for now. And yeah, let's have a listen. It's kind of crackling, blips and blobs, whatever you call it. Texture kind of things, percussion, yeah, just let's have a listen. I don't know how to call this shit. You only want the top, right? Okay, so this is the patch. Let's first talk about all the building blocks included in this specific patch here, so you can possibly adapt it to VCV rack or whatever you use. If you want, I can maybe try to adapt it to a VCV rack patch. Let me know in the comment section if this is something that you want, or if you want the sample, that long several minute recorded sample, I can also give it to you if you like it, and maybe break it down into 8-bar loops or whatever. And yeah, so now let's talk about the different modules here in this patch. And as you can see, I went a little bit OCD style here with the cables and coloring, so to make it more clear for you to follow along, right? Now, again, as mentioned before, I like to think in those 4 different categories of modules, right? So we have, for example, we have CV generation, then we have audio generation. So the 4 blocks are CV generation, audio generation, CV modulation, and audio modulation, right? Now, in order of cables here, everything that is yellow is audio, right? Then the gray ones are pitch, CV, right? And the blue ones are all other CVs. Then we have the red ones. Those are the triggers and gates, right? And then the green one, I don't have green one here, by the way. It would be the clock, right? So now this should already give you hopefully some more clarity, and to make it even more easier for you to follow along, I already labeled all the blocks here accordingly, in what category they fall into it, right? So we have CV generation, the clock here, synced to the DAW's tempo, right? And then we have a CV generator, aka sequencer. Yeah, of course we need to give the signal into the sequencer. Now I think you know what the sequencer does. I don't need to explain this to you. It contains all kind of triggers and stuff, pitch, velocity, and so on, right? Where things get interesting are audio generator here, down here, which is a noise source, and the audio modulation, which is a filter bank, right? Now this thing is interesting because if we feed a noise source into this filter bank, it can create some chords, right? Those are chords, and then we can rotate it, and of course we can modulate that, right? And I did that, as you can see here. Input A with a random CV generation LFO, put to random, and 516 notes. So it does its random thing, right? Let's make this dry quickly. And the key thing about this morph filter is the self-resonating resonance here, right? So if we pull up this resonant filter here, it starts to resonating, which is called pinging, I guess, right? If I'm correct. So I put it to 8-pole mode. We have 2-pole mode, 4-pole, 8-pole mode. Now what is 8-pole mode? Which is a 24 dB per octave cutoff frequency, which is quite aggressive, right? Let's make it a bit longer here. And here inside this morph filter, we have another option, which is vowel. Vowel? Yeah, vowel, I guess. So we can make it talk if we want to. And another cool thing is we can actually use our very own presets here, right? So we can create our very own chords, right? Now, I had the idea maybe if we have a bass patch, we can maybe use the same fundamental note to get a more harmonic patch, right? But I will test it in another video maybe and share it if it works. And then you can save it as your very own preset, right? As your very own chord preset. If you want to build some chords, some tonal stuff inside Reaktor Blocks, this morph filter is great for it. Just keep in mind, use some noise source to feed into it, and then use the self-resonating filter here, right? Let's move further. Here we have envelope generator, which falls into the CV generator category, right? And here we have audio modulation amp. Now what this does is actually, you know it from your synthesizers, it can create this ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release kind of thing, right? So this envelope here generates the envelope, and then according to the settings here, it tweaks the volume, right? To make it a little bit more clear, I also like to use this view here that you can actually switch here. You can also make the cables invisible, right? So if you want to use this little button here, you can show it in this view here. But patching, I like to use the cables for patching, right? So basically all you need for such sounds is comb filter, maybe some noise, some random shit. Honestly, randomness is really good for some effects and clicks and blobs, whatever it is, and of course delays and reverbs, right? And of course more filtering. Self-resonating morph filter works great in my opinion. It can also create some melodic stuff, you know, some nice background textures. I will experiment a little bit more with this morph filter to not only generate those effects and then share it, of course, on this channel if you like. Again, it looks complicated, but it's simple if you think of those are just effects, right? And then we have CV generator. We have CV generator 1, we have CV generator 2, and we have CV generator 3, right? We have another audio generator here, which puts out noise. Why do we need noise? Because we want the more filter resonating the noise into some chords, right? So we need to connect those with each other, right? And the sequencer says when we need a trigger, right? So when is the note played and when is it not, right? We use the gate from the clock and we use the gate to this LFO. So the LFO knows when he needs to put out some random generated CV triggers, right? Which then modulates the effects here and some chance. Remember here, we have the chance between frequency A and frequency B. So it flips between those to add even more randomness, right? And we have the amplifier here, which is basically a volume control. And the CV generator, envelope generator, says how fast this volume control needs to go up or how fast with the release, for example, he needs to turn it down again. It's like a little Smurf, right? Sitting in front of your computer and tweaking that volume fader. And we need, of course, connect those tools, right? And it also needs, the CV generator also needs the signal, a gate, for example, to know when the note is played, right? Hope this makes it a little bit more clear on how you can create some clicks, blobs, whatever, background texture stuff, and hope you like it. And easily adapt it to VCV rack because you have all the building blocks that you see here, and adapt it to VCV rack. And maybe I will do that as an experiment. Let me know in the comment section if you like that. Again, if we break it down in its simplest things, based on the book Patch and Tweak, the whole concept of modules fall either in those 4 categories. They either generate something, either audio or control voltage, or they modify it, right? So we have, again, CV generator, CV generator, CV generator. And this CV generator is actually here for modulating stuff, right? Now things get a little bit complicated, but I hope you get the idea. And if you just think in those 4 sections, I found it makes it way easier to patch things together, and it also makes more sense to me. Yeah, as I said, there is always overlap in between those 4 categories. For example, as I said, a CV generator can also modulate something, like here, the LFO, of course, right? This control voltage we use for modulating the effect section here, right? So yeah, that's it. Now here's my recommendation for starting out that helped me with Reaktor Blocks or VCV Rack, whatever you want to use. Number 1, think what you actually want to create. Is it some mid-bass sequence? Is it the texture, something like this one, right? Or is it some kind of a percussion thing, right? Second, think what modules from those categories you possibly need. For percussion or textures, you will probably need some effects and filters and maybe some envelopes, aka CV modulations, or not modulations but CV generators. For soundscapes, some reverbs, some longer attacks, maybe some granular stuff, maybe samplers. I don't know. That's the fun thing. We can be creative here, right? Number 3, limit yourself to a basic patch using just a handful of modules, like I did here. But I can always evolve it in something new, right? And again, number 4, if you come up with some green gumball patches, like this was for me, and by the way, it took me 1.5 hours, I guess, to come up with such a thing here. Record it and save it, like I did here. And then maybe later use it for your next patches as a starting point. It always gets easier if there is already something there, or also to spark some fresh inspiration. And yeah, I hope this helps a little bit. And again, if you want a kick that you can modify to your very own needs and customize it, I have a solution for free for you, which is my Ableton Live kick template. You can download it for free on the link below. It was used in this track as well. So yeah, I hope this gives you some guidance, some clarity, and have fun with exploring the modules and green and red and white gumbals. Thanks for your time. See you in another video. Thanks. Cheers.